Plate tectonics. Well, ever since I made the discovery the Earth is an ancient star, plate tectonics has just been thrown like that's 20th century. Oh, how did the mountains form? It must have been smashing plates. No, it doesn't work anymore. Because the Earth's history is vastly richer than what the geologists want you to believe. The Earth is an ancient star. Literally, it's an ancient star. It was really big, hot, and bright, just like the sun, and it's gone through multiple stages of evolution as it cools and dies and shrinks and forms the little oyster-like pearl in the center called planet. So basically, plate tectonics, half-baked, 20th century, you can forget it even exists. The reason why they kept it is because they didn't have an alternative. Now they have an alternative, and yes, I've written a lot of papers on Vixra trying to overview this fact. They can go towards this theory now. They don't have to keep on believing that somehow plates are subducting continuously without mechanism. To think that a subducting plate pushes like this continuously to build mountains like this begs the question, what's pushing it? There's nothing pushing it. Gravity is pulling everything down. If anything, the magma is trying to escape and release its heat through the surface, and all the plates do is just fall. It's just one single plate that's on the Earth right now, and there's cracks in it. If you've ever seen a sidewalk, you'll notice that there's cracks in the sidewalk. Pay attention to sidewalks. The answers to the biggest questions that anybody could ever ask are right in front of us. You just have to ask the right questions. Look at a sidewalk. If you see cracks in the sidewalk, you'll notice that sometimes the crack is a little bit set down into the ground, and there's a large jagged edge leading up all the way to another jagged edge where that crack is leading a little bit down too. All it means is that the concrete is settling into the soil, causing cracks. Now, if that happens in the Earth, which is happening on the Earth's crust, after it formed, is settling in to the Earth itself, to the liquid interior. Just like soil with concrete. When those supposed plates, they settle in, they crack, creating what's called, what was that called? A subduction zone. A subduction zone. It's not really a subduction zone, it's just where the energy of those cracking, moving plates is the greatest. There are no subducting plates. It's just the Earth is cooling and kind of like shrinking as the heat escapes through the magma. This also has implications towards expanding Earth theory. Now, I remember when I first started reading about it, because after I made the discovery, and then I started to like read all these alternative things because my mind was really open. When I looked at expanding Earth theory, I was like, oh wow, look at that. It appears as if the continents at one time all fit together into a tinier ball. There's only one problem with that theory. Where did all the extra matter come from inside of the Earth? Where did it come from? Where did all that extra matter come from? You just don't have matter appearing out of nothing. That's the same psychologically false reasoning of Big Bang Theory. So essentially, the Big Bang creationists are the same as the expanding Earth theorists. They believe that matter can come out of nothing. For no reason at all. There's no explanation for it. And besides, another big problem with expanding Earth theory is that they look at the continents as if those are the continents. They don't realize that there's giant stretches of land that stretch out from the continents called continental shelves. And if you try to fit the continental shelves together, they don't fit at all. Like on the east coast of Florida where I live, I point that way. That's the ocean right there. You have a wide continental shelf stretching all the way many, many, many miles into the Atlantic Ocean. And some places, the continental shelf is even further. So if you want to say that the Earth somehow fits, no, the continents don't fit with each other at all, if you include those. It was just, I think, a half-baked idea cooked up in the 1950s that somehow is still here 65 years later. And, well, it's not as bad as general relativity, where scientists want you to believe that somehow space and time have physical properties. That's really bad. That's about as the worst pseudoscience as you can get, because not only is it pseudoscience, but they teach it in universities as if it's fact. And then they have their idol called Einstein, where, you know, if anybody questions Einstein, you're an idiot. Which brings me to my next point. The Emperor's new robes. Quick story on that. I don't know if my viewers understand what the Emperor's new robes are, but basically it's a fable of an emperor. I'll try my best to explain this. It's a fable of an emperor who wanted the finest robes that could ever be made. You know, he had a lot of wealth. He had a lot of extravagance, a lot of wealth, and he wanted the best robes that could possibly be provided for him. And then these two robe makers, they came up to the castle one day and they said, "Yes, King, we can make you the finest robe of the most silkiest, most opulent material that exists in all the lands." And the king was like, "Oh, really? I would like to have you, you know, fit me for one of these robes." And they said, "Oh, well, we can only make you one. We'll make you like many of them." And he's like, "Oh, well, it's even better." And so, you know, they came back the next day, and the king, you know, stripped down to his underwear, and they fitted him for these robes. Now, when they were measuring him, they measured him, yeah. And then they went to the back room and pretended that they were holding up a robe or a piece of clothing, and they were like, "Okay, it's made of such fine silky material that, you know, only people worthy of their position and who are of, I guess you could say, worthy of their position in society and who are actually intelligent will be only to see these robes." So the king was like, "Okay." So they put this invisible robe on him, and they're holding nothing. And then they, you know, pretended to be fitting him with a big, opulent, robe. And then the king walked over to the mirror, and being afraid that, you know, he wasn't going to be fit for his position, he was like, "Oh wow, they're so nice. They fit so smoothly around me," and there's nothing there. He wasn't wearing anything at all, but he was just looking at himself in the mirror. And then in his underwear, he was just looking at himself in the mirror in his underwear. And he had his second ranking guy come in, some duke came in, and the king was like, "What do you think of my robes?" You know, to test out to see if he was worthy of his position. And the duke, knowing better, he was like, okay, in his mind, he's like, "This guy isn't wearing anything, he's just in his underwear, but, you know, I don't want them to think that I'm not worthy of my position as a duke. So, yes, King, they're fantastic robes, they look so nice on you, yada, 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 yada," you know, really laying down the talk. And king was like, "Oh, well, my duke sees them too, so, you know, there must be something to this." And then, you know, it goes around, and eventually he was testing out all of his high-ranking people to see if he had to fire anybody. And then, you know, eventually he just got to the point to where, hey, I'm just going to have a parade, and I'm going to show all these robes to all the citizens. And the citizens, if they're worthy of, you know, of my rule, you know, so I don't have to execute them, I'm just going to, like, go and parade around in these robes. So, yeah, he established a parade, got all the floats ready, got all the band members and everybody got ready, and the king was strolling down the street, you know, in his underwear. And then this one kid, this one little child, looking at him like, what the hell? He isn't wearing anything. And then he pointed and laughed and said, hey, the king isn't wearing anything. And then all of a sudden everybody in the crowd started sneering and laughing, and it all occurred that he wasn't wearing anything at all, because the common people pointed it out. And the reason why I'm telling you this story is because that's what the space-time fabric of Einstein is. Einstein was a swindler. He said, okay, gravitation can be explained by space-time warping. You can't see it, you have to study math for it, and if you're not intelligent enough, you know, to understand the math behind it, then you're not worthy of your position. So you have these students going on to graduate school, learning general relativity about how advanced this theory is and how much it explains gravitation, and if you say anything against it, if you have problems with it, you're like, oh, you're not worthy of your position, you can understand the math, blah 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 blah. You know, you can't figure this stuff out, so you're not worthy of your position as a professor, or, you know, you're dumb, you're stupid. Okay? And that's what space-time fabric is. It's literally the emperor's new robes. There is no space-time fabric. What it was the Einstein, he pulled a fast one on us. And everybody bought it. And now, I guess you could say, I'm the little kid, and there are many others like me around the internet, just to find them, that realize that the emperor isn't wearing any clothes. In other words, the graduate students and the PhDs and the professors and all the universities and all the high-ranking professor emerituses and all those high-paying individuals, they're so about saving face, about trying to make themselves look good, that they will never admit that they don't see the space-time warping or whatever. But it's not even really there. They got had. They got taken advantage of. They've been told a lie, and they just went with it just to make it appear as if they're worthy of their position. But the people that are actually worthy of the position are the people that can point out that it's nonsense. And I know a lot of my readers, a lot of my viewers can understand this as well. And that's why I'm making this video. So to recap, we have expanding Earth having the same exact problems as Big Bang creationism, matter creation out of nothing. We have plate tectonics being unnecessary. The plate tectonics is the same thing as sidewalk concrete cracking. There are no subducting plates, and the history of the Earth is much richer than what the geologists can come to terms with. And the Emperor's New Robes is space-time warping fabric. Einstein took us all for a ride. It's 100 years since that theory has been invented. And I know they're going to celebrate the invention of it and how it explains everything in some conferences and stuff, but it's all just a bunch of nonsense. Alright, today is February 18th, 2015. I decided not to wear a tie today because I didn't like myself feeling choked. But I hope these videos can help people out to understand what's really going on in the sciences. Alright.